Hello world, and we are back. My name's Kyle Fischl, and this is going to be episode 73 of my poker vlog. And today I'm going to cover a session that occurred on a Friday night at Orange City Racing and Card Club. But before I get into some hands, a quick note, my RadPoker rating is currently at 1609. Going to try to improve that week over week going forward. Maybe even snag myself one of those WSOP staking contracts for the upcoming year. But now, let's get into some hands. First interesting hand. With 2 limps to me, I'm in the small blind with ace-10 offsuit. Gonna size up here a bit as I'll be playing the entire hand out of position. I raise to $25. Well, both limpers call, so we're going 3 ways to a flop of 10, 8, 4, 2 clubs. Pretty great board for me. Top pair, top kicker. Should be best here nearly always. As I'm first to act, I'm going to bet about half pot. I bet $35. Well, strangely, one of the middle position limpers decides to raise to 100. Not quite sure this means that I'm behind. I guess he could have like jack 9, any 2 clubs, maybe a worse 10 and do this all the same. But either way, I'm really never going to fold top pair, top kicker to 1 bet. So I make the call with plans on reevaluating on the turn. When the turn is the 10 of spades, there is no evaluation needed.
Yes, in my expert opinion, that shape is dead. Very sorry.
I'm going with this hand no matter what he has. I checked my opponent and he bets about 250 very, very quickly. And I hope he didn't flop a set because I'm all in. So I announce all in, put my chips in. He snap calls. And when the river's a 6 of clubs, a lot of obvious draws made it there. So I'm not super confident as I flip over my hand. But luckily for me, my opponent had pocket aces. Yeah, don't ever limp pocket aces. Just don't. So yeah, a good way to be a winning cash game player is to get a full double up in the first hand that you actually play. So next hand of note. As a seat opens, I jump into a more vlogger optimal seat, and I'm happy to look down at pocket aces. When an early position player raises to $20 and it folds all the way to me, I'm definitely going to 3-bet, not quite a full 3x. This particular opponent seems semi-weak, and I'm not certain he'll be able to call a 3-bet. So I size to $55, and he is the only caller. When the flop is king 7 deuce 2 hearts, very, very good for me. Any king will pay me off, and heart draws can pay me off. I'm going to do a standard down bet. When it checks to me, I bet $40, and my opponent raises to 125. Okay, please have some kind of king, I guess. I snap jam all in because the opponent only has about under $300 behind, so it's tough to bet almost a third of your stack and then fold to a raise. So I go all in, and after a bit of thinking, he decides to fold. No! Maybe it was a raise, see where I'm at kind of move. Either way, we'll take the win. Next hand of note. An early position player raises to $20. There's 1 caller to me. I'm in middle position with ace-10 offsuit. One of the greatest hands ever invented in poker, at least for this session. So I call. The button calls and 1 blind calls as well. So we're going 5 ways to a flop of 10-10 deuce 2 clubs. Yep, ace-10 is the greatest hand ever. You just always hit trips with it. When the pre-flop aggressor bets $35, I really can't just call this. There are plenty of weak pocket pairs that'll call a raise, and I have to make any club draws pay me, as well as the fact of a pre-flop aggressor that then bets into 5 people could have jacks or better, so, you know, he could easily pay off a large bet. So I raised to $100. Well, the button calls and the pre-flop aggressor calls as well. So we are still 3 ways to a turn card of the 3 of hearts. Brings a second flush draw out there. As I'm going against 2 people, either one could have a worse 10 easily. And if one wants to call with a flush draw, they're going to be given a bad price to chase that flush because I bet $350. After a bit of thinking, both players decide to fold. So we win that one as well. Next interesting hand. An early position player raises to $20. There's one caller I'm on the small blind with the greatest hand ever invented, Ace 10 offsuit. The way this hand's been treating me, I am 100% calling this one. No need to 3-bet as I'll play the entire thing out of position and there's no need for that. I called, the big blind calls as well, so we're going 4 ways to a flop of 996 rainbow, and I check fold.
Dude, I almost had you.
You almost had me? You never had me.
Yeah, this is how most hands that are not of note actually go. Figured I'd throw one in there, especially because it was Ace 10 again, and it really doesn't flop too well usually, just happened to in this session. Please take a moment and hit the subscribe button. Thank you. Next hand of note. An early position player raises to $15. I'm in middle position with pocket aces. I 3-bet. Well, one of the blinds calls and the pre-flop aggressor calls as well. When the flop is King 6-4 rainbow and it's checked to me, I have some fairly competent opponents in this particular hand who I don't think will give up to just 1 bet. So I'm not really going to go for the 1/3 sizing, especially because either one could have a king and will pay off any size bet. So in this particular hand, I bet for my C bet, but I suppose no one had anything because everyone folds, and no one wants to tangle with the vlogger, I guess. Next interesting hand. I am under the gun with pocket deuces. When there's a button straddle and the big blind calls, I'm definitely going to call, try to set mine with deuces. The under the gun +1 player raises to $50, and it folds all the way back to me. This particular opponent has sized pretty big whenever he's been betting, and I've seen him fold when there's some aggression placed against him. So my plan is to call and possibly steal this pot if some favorable runouts happen my way. So I call. We are heads up to a flop of Jack 5-3, 2 spades. I checked my opponent playing flow, and he bets $40. First time I've ever seen this particular opponent down bet. He's always increased his bet sizing consistently, so I'm not sure if this actually means that he has a jack or he actually has air like ace king. I'm still ahead of ace king, ace queen, and there are plenty of actually good turn cards that can help me gain straight draws or favor the perceived range that I'm holding. So for $40, I'm gonna make the call and see what the turn is. Well, the turn is the 4 of clubs. Oh, when I turn that card, I'm pretty much have to continue. Don't really see a reason to check raise yet or lead out. I actually gained a pretty good amount of outs if my opponent has just a pair of jacks. A hand like ace king, ace queen, who actually aren't beating me yet, may continue bluffing as they picked out what they perceive are outs. So when my opponent bets 150, it is a very large bet for the size of the pot. We're gonna continue again and see if we can't bink a favorable river card. Well, the river is the 7 of diamonds. If you've watched this vlog for a while, there are several times where I talk about I thought about lead bluffing, but then just check call. Well, this is not one of those times. As the ranges of hands that we have, my opponent as a pre-flop raiser and betting 2 streets is pretty capped at 1 pair. Like maybe has aces, kings, or queens, or just a single jack, but that's probably best case scenario. Whereas I, who have a wide range, who play all pocket pairs and pretty much most suited connectors, I have a huge amount of hands in my range that include 2 pairs, straights, and sets. The actual top of my range includes hands like 5-6 of spades and ace-6 of spades that would actually play the exact same way and can't allow this to check through if we actually made a straight or made a strong hand. But I could also do this with 4-5, pocket 6s, pocket 7s, and even a flopped set, as my opponent should never really have a 6 here or pocket jacks. With all that in mind and thinking that at worst I'm trying to get 1 pair to fold, I lead for $350. My opponent thinks for quite a long time, probably over a minute. He eventually lets this one go.
Is it better to be feared or respected?
If you're ever gonna do super crazy bluffs, it's good for the game when you show it.
Is it too much to ask for both?
So in this session, I did not just run super pure, I also pulled off a few interesting moves. But a final hand of note. An early position player raises to $20. There's one caller. I'm on the button with pocket jacks. Definitely going to raise this one up. I make it $60. The small blind calls and both other players call as well. So we're going 4 ways to a flop of Jack 6-6. Yeah, enough of that fancy lead bluffing stuff. We're just going to get back to flopping monsters. When it checks to me, I want to go for a very, very small size. As I have the entire board locked up, there's not too many hands that can call a bet, but I have to try to build a pot. I bet $75. Very small in relation to the size of the pot. Well, the small blind raises to 225, and it folds back to me. He only has like 120 behind, so I don't see any universe where he's not calling an all-in here. And most of the time, he has just a single 6 and is drawing to 1 out. So no reason to wait. We'll just go all in now. Folded back to me, so all in. He calls with ace-queen. Huh. And in my mind, he was actually drawing dead. Little sweat on the turn never hurt anyone, though. We still scoop that one. So we are into the game for $800. Out of the game for $22.77. That is a profit of $14.77 across 7 hours. Is $211 an hour or 42 big blinds an hour. Well, if you watched all the way to this point, thank you. I appreciate it. Please consider hitting the like button. It helps out my channel with the algorithm a lot, and there will be more to come next week.